future of world being negotiated in next 2 weeks as Super Blue Blood Moon approaches. The shutdown of the U.S. government over the weekend is likely to become permanent as the top-level negotiations continue to discuss its replacement. Multiple sources agree. The Western Old World Order leadership is gathering this week in Davos, Switzerland, to debate this very issue, the source say. Pentagon sources, meanwhile, say the shutdown was orchestrated so Congress can be arrested, as they lose immunity while not in sessions. In addition, the sources say the U.S. President Donald Trump was summoned to meet top brass at the Pentagon on January 18, as the Navy hunt for Russian submarines and the military uses the shutdown for arrest cable, terminate the corrupt Red government, and launch the Republic to usher in a global currency reset. Furthermore, the sources continued. The House may release the Fiscal Memo, which will take down criminals in Department of Justice, the FBI, the Democratic National Council, the CIA, plus the Obama and Hillary Clinton organizations. Trump may even read the memo at the State of the Union address on January 13, the sources add. The sources also say Zimbabwe opposition leader Roy Bennett was killed in New Mexico to solidify the Zimbabwe dollar and pave the way for GCR. A gold-backed Zimbabwe dollar is being pushed by many as a new African currency to replace the current mishmash of Rothschild-controlled currency. However, it is still far from certain that the CGR will take place as envisioned by the people in the Pentagon and agencies. Since worldwide, the situation is extremely volatile and slipping out of U.S. control. The most important factor to bear in mind is that the U.S. government is the most in-depth government in the history of the planet, and much of that debt is owed to China. If the U.S. unilaterally renege on the debt, it will no longer be able to control the U.S. dollar system that allows the Pentagon to operate around the planet. The result would be that U.S. soldiers who are already not receiving pay thanks to the government shutdown, being forced to back on the streets or else rob people at gunpoint around the world. As if to underline the situation, the Chinese rating agency Dagon downgraded the U.S. sovereign and local government debt to BB plus with a negative outlook, putting it below Peru or Morocco. Here is what they had to say about the U.S. debt. The perennial negative impact of the superstructure on the economic base has continued to deteriorate the debt repayment sources of the federal government, and this trend will be further exacerbated by the government's massive tax cuts. The increasing reliance on the debt-driven mode of economic development will continue to erode the solvency of the federal government. Dagon probably does not realize just how deep the problem runs. The Pentagon, in its first ever audit using outside auditors, has already found that $21 trillion went missing between 1998 and 2015. That is more than 35 times the entire official U.S. military budget for 2016, multiple sources report. CAA, MI6, and Pentagon sources say the missing money was spent on building huge mercenary armies outside the control of official government structures. These are the people behind ISIS, the war in Yemen. Also, the sources say much of the money was spent on secret space program. Since we try to focus on the here and now visible world, let us see what parts of a secret space program are visible to us members of the surface population. One that pops to mind right away is Elon Musk, with his Tesla Motors and SpaceX programs. Tesla Motors' market capitalization of $350 billion is 50 times its sales and 18 times its earnings. Traditionally, market cap was considered to be reasonable at around 10 times earnings. Clearly, Musk is a major money laundering channel for all that privately owned central bank funding money that has been conjured up recently. It is also important to remember that sources in the Pentagon and the NSA both agree that SpaceX and Musk are the real suspects behind the recent North Korea missile threat. Then, of course, there is Alphabet Google, whose recently fired chairman Eric Schmidt visited North Korea in 2013, before the recent missiles brouhaha started. Google has now been linked to missing Malaysian Air Flight 370-17 and the connected disappearance of microbiologists and computer engineers. In any case, we have seen countless attempts by Khazarian mafia cablers in recent years to set off nuclear weapons and start their Armageddon, only to have them stopped each time by often mysterious forces. Out here now, Pentagon sources admitted that the secret space program may have been used to down nuke missiles aimed at Hawaii and Japan and to stop the cable from leaving Earth. Meanwhile, back here on the Seaport Ranch surface of the planet Earth, it is clear that the U.S. West Coast oligarchs are under the attack in their California strongholds. The recent mysterious fires in California are now followed by equally mysterious earthquake swarms in Reno, Nevada last week. Remember, Reno is the last major unregulated offshore banking center on Earth, where the Rothschild family have been gathering. The underground base in Reno has been tied to anti-gravity disk technology, and Nazi activity in Antakya as well. A link with evidence of this was removed from the internet just as this newspaper was being published. Perhaps that is why a senior CIA official who is a relative of Admiral Byrd of Antarctic exploration fame has requested a meeting with representatives of the White Dragon Society before and during the January 31st Super Blue Blood Moon event to discuss the future of the planet Earth. The meeting will take place next week at an undisclosed location in Southeast Asia. Hopefully, we will have a detailed report on what that meeting available for our readers in the February 5, 2018 edition of this newspaper. There can be no doubt that U.S. secret society is under pressure like never before because of the ongoing collapse of the current U.S. social contract. This can be seen in the graph in the link below that shows the explanations and unsustainable increase in wealth of 1% of population since 2014. The situation in California may be the most critical of all now. Huge tent encampments for the homeless have been appeared next to the houses of wealthy Californians. Furthermore, Rosamond has reached the point where buses transporting Apple and Google employees are being stoned and shot at. With this tense background, rural California is moving to succeed from San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco coastal enclaves of the super wealthy. As this happens, the California government and local mayors have come out in open revolt against the U.S. federal government. That is why U.S. military forces have followed their arrest of East Coast Khazarian oligarchs, with mass arrests in California, Pentagon sources say. Internationally, the current U.S. corporate government is losing support around the planet. Here are some examples. U.S. NATO ally Turkey has begun attacking U.S.-backed forces in Syria. Longtime U.S. ally Pakistan has publicly ended its alliance with the U.S. North and South Korea put together a joint Olympic team to send a message to the world that they do not want to be artificially divided as a people and used as an excuse to start World War III. Canada, India, Japan, Brazil, China, and the EU attacked Trump's protectionist trade policies. EU central banks are switching their reserves from US dollars to Chinese yuan. This death throws to the U.S. corporate government that have been given urgency to this week gathering of Western powers in Davos, Switzerland. There, one faction is pushing for a restoration of the Republic of the United States of America. Another faction is pushing to finance a friendly takeover by Canada and the creation of a completely governed United States of North America. What both factions share in common is the wish not to have U.S. hegemony merely be replaced by Chinese hegemony. The Chinese, for their part, are saying they want to help create a world government that is friendly and fair to all peoples of the planet. According to senior members of Asian secret societies, they insist they do not want or seek Chinese hegemony. However, certain factions make it clear that they think it is China's turn to rule to take over ruling the planet from the West. In any case, as things are now going, the more time that passes, the stronger China gets and the weaker the West gets. Western societies are now drowning in debt, have socially destabilizing wealth disparities, and have shrinking, aging populations. This is why the West needs to fundamentally reform its government, social, and economic architecture. The alternative to a reboot include a jubilee and one-off access redistribution would be a steady decay that will end in widespread collapse of current structures. California is still just a foretaste.